What an entertaining race. I mean, if last year's was really, really good, this race last year, I think this one either tops it or it's right up there with it. I mean, it was a great race all around. Never knew who was going to win. I mean, honestly, this race was amazing. We had 4 wide for the lead at Phoenix. I mean, what more could you want out of a race, honestly? This was one of the better races of the season, in my opinion. I would definitely rate it better than the Phoenix race from earlier in the season, and the Phoenix race from earlier in the season was pretty good as well, pretty solid. So this race, Elimination Sunday, where we decided the championship 4 that would be going to Homestead and battling for the title. So coming in, obviously, with Harvick's encumberment and him now being only 3 points above the cut line, it was going to get a little close. But Harvick showed everyone that he was not here to play around, winning both, or I think they had, 3 practices? I think he won every practice, and he started on the pole. And Chase Elliott started beside him in second early on. Harvick fired off and took the race lead, but Chase didn't let him get too far away. In fact, that whole first stage, the lead never grew to more than a second. Chase Elliott was always within a second of that lead at some point in that first stage. He never let Harvick get too far away. It was always about 6/10, 7/10 of a second, and it was fairly good there as well. But then late in that stage, as Harvick is going on to lap Allmendinger, he goes high through 3 and 4, the old 1 and 2, and has a flat right front tire. So Harvick, who had dominated stage 1, was on his way to get 10 bonus points for the stage, is now out of the top 10 of the stage, has come down pit road and has fallen a lap down. He has to pit, and since he pits with 1 to go in the stage, that means that he's going to get a penalty for pitting while the pits are closed. So that was interesting right there, as already there were some shakeups happening, and Kevin Harvick was now in a huge hole. He was a lap down in 30th and was not going to be able to take a wave round due to his penalty for pitting while the pits were closed. So Harvick is now in a horrible position, and with Chase Elliott leading, it changes everything about this race. Harvick is now out, Chase is in, and Truex is barely in. This whole race, though, the cutoff was very close until the end. So Chase wins stage 1. I think Blaney was second. They come down pit road, do some pit stops, Stage 2 restarts. We see more of the same, except Kurt Busch fires off. He had moved up inside the top 5, I believe, to end stage 1. He moves up into the race lead as Chase Elliott's car doesn't really fire off that well. Kurt gets the lead. A quick yellow comes out for Joey Logano, blowing a tire down the front stretch, old back stretch. I have to. That's hard for me to remember. I'm gonna have to. But Logano blows the tire down the front stretch. Suarez gets collected in it, brings out the caution flag, and Kevin Harvick has moved his way into the free pass position. So Harvick back on the lead lap already, and he's gonna try and battle back now and get back up there into a position to try and make it on points. So basically, the stage goes along. Late in the stage, there's another yellow. I forget what for, but some drivers came down pit road, some stayed out. Among those that stayed out, Truex and Kevin Harvick trying to get the stage points, because between them is a big points race. And on the restart, Kyle Busch goes from like 11th or 9th or something down to the apron, down the front stretch, and goes like 3 or 4 wide in the turn, and he gets all the way up to the race lead, or up inside the top 3, and then he gets to the race lead a little bit later on. Kyle Busch takes stage number 2 at Phoenix. So once again, another, some more strategy being played out. Some cars then come down pit road at the end of the stage. Some take 2, some take 4. And we end up now in stage number 3, where it's still anyone's game. We don't know who's advancing at this point. It's anyone from Kurt Busch to Truex to Harvick to Chase Elliott. I mean, one of those 4 could have taken up that final spot, or those final 2 spots. And, going through the race, it's looking pretty normal. And then at some point, I think later in that big run, because Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, and I think it was Brad Keselowski who stayed out as everyone else basically came down and got 2 or 4 tires. Chase on those 2 tires, he was the fastest car on the racetrack, in my opinion. He was probably up there with Kevin Harvick in terms of speed. He gets up to Keselowski because he's on some fresher tires, gets by Keselowski, gets by Kyle Busch easily. Drivers start to hit pit road. The drivers that stayed out, they start to hit pit road, like Denny Hamlin, like Brad Keselowski. Kyle Busch ends up coming down. And then some drivers that could have stayed out longer, and they end up coming down pit road early to try and leapfrog some drivers with some fresher tires. Among them are Kevin Harvick and some of the others. And what happens, but the 97 of Tanner Berryhill spins in turn number 3 and 4, gets down to the apron. Now this maybe would not have been a caution normally, but since he was on the apron right in front of pit entrance and we're under green flag pit stops, the caution had to have been thrown, and it trapped so many drivers lap down front. In fact, I think like 11 drivers were on the lead lap, as that yellow came out. Among them a lap down, Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. Harvick being the big one because he was, remember, he's only 3 points up, entering the race. So, also, another big thing that this did was saved Kurt Busch big time. Kurt Busch one of the previous pit stops, your race leader came down pit road. He got penalized a lap for pulling up to pit. Basically, what pulling up to pit is you pass the pace car before you get to the commitment line on pit road. So that gives him a lap penalty. Now, once again, I think this is something that I think has to be addressed because the rule is fine. I agree with the rule. If you pass the pace car on entry to pit road, get penalized because you obviously sped up under the caution period to try and gain an advantage over the drivers behind you. I don't agree with it being a 1 lap penalty. You get a lap penalty for being half a car length in front of the pace car. I think that's pretty ridiculous. I think the penalty should go down to a pass through or tail into the line or something. I don't think it should be, hey, you lose a lap. That's a big penalty for something as small as that. But so that caution came out. Kurt Busch stayed out as he was lapped down, but he got the lucky dog, and so he's back on the lead lap. Those pit stops happen. Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, they go in. Chase Elliott speeding in Section 1, so the advantage he had gained, trapping those guys lap down, being ahead of them, and now having some fresher tires than them, that's all gone because he has to start at the tail end of the field. So some more stuff happens, and Chase Elliott somehow finds his way back up inside the top 10. Kyle Busch coming forward, Kevin Harvick's coming forward, and then some late race restarts again. And they went 4 wide at Phoenix for the race lead. It didn't work. Denny Hamlin, very loose underneath Kurt Busch. Slides up into Kurt, puts Kurt in the wall. Kurt trying to get off the wall, gets down to Hamlin, spins the 11 around. The 41 then spinning off the 11, comes down. Who's there but Chase Elliott in the 9. And now the drivers who could contend with Kevin Harvick and try and beat Harvick in terms of getting in on points are now wrecked and basically done. Kurt Busch, his day was done. Chase Elliott did continue on. I think Chase finished 23rd, but was not going to have a shot to get to Homestead unless something major happened to Kevin Harvick. But that 4 wide move, man, Kyle Busch made a big move, and it was a pretty exciting moment in this race, and it was a pretty big crash. And if this doesn't define Hendrick Motorsports season, I don't know what will. All 4 of them got damaged from this crash. Chase Elliott was up off the ground. The whole right side of that car was torn off. Byron, trying to avoid the crash, gets down to Jimmy Johnson, puts Johnson to the inside wall, and then Bowman, as he's trying to slow down, Hamlin kind of spins right in front of him, and Bowman taps him with the front end. All 400 cars got damaged. My gosh, if that didn't describe Hendrick's season in a nutshell, that was it. I'll come back to this crash a little bit later because I have something I want to say about it. But then, so the race is going on. Kyle Busch checks away on the next restart. He's pulling away. It looks like he's going to win. Caution comes out as Alex Bowman. This was actually something I had heard over the radio. So Bowman says, "Oh, my temperatures are getting really hot, because they had hit with the front end, so they had taped up the whole front. The radiator's probably busted in." And Bowman's like, "Hey, I'm getting a little hot, And Greg's like, just stay out, just stay out, 10-4. And laps later, Bowman engulfs in flames and spins in turn number 3 and brings out the caution flag. Good job, Greg Ives. You're still making decisions to this day that are going to kill people. So that brings out the caution flag, and they do another red flag. There were multiple red flags in this race. Sets up a late race restart. Brad Keselowski is 4th on some fresh tires. Kyle Larson is, I think, like 6th on fresh tires, and Eric Almirola is starting on the front row, and he has to win to get to Homestead. If he wins, he knocks out his teammate Kevin Harvick. On the restart, Kyle Busch gets the jump. Keselowski gets through to 2nd, but as he's chasing down Kyle Busch, it looked like he was going to get there at least and try maybe a bump or something. He's chasing him down about a 10th a lap. He needs only a 10th a lap to get there. But in the end, with about, I think it was like 5 to go, Keselowski really messed up. I forget if it was 1 or, I think it was 1 and 2. He really messed up 1 and 2, got high, gave up all the ground he had gained, fell back to about 7/10 of a second back, and ended up losing the race to Kyle Busch, who goes on and wins at Phoenix for his 8th victory of the season. Harvick just got his 8th last race, Kyle Busch with his 8th this race, and now we know the 4 drivers that are going to Homestead. It was the 4 that were in going into it. Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick are going to be bound for the championship at the Homestead Miami Speedway in a winner-take-all format. Now, the big thing about this is I've been very hard on this format in the past and how it has produced some champions that maybe didn't deserve it as much as some of the others, even though, obviously, if you win the championship, you deserve the championship no matter what format it is. You still deserve it. But, in terms of points over the full season, it's been kind of up in the air. But what this format has done this season is actually done the right thing. We have Kyle Busch leading the full season points right now. He'd be leading the full season points. Kevin Harvick would be 2nd. Martin Truex Jr. would be 3rd. Joey Logano would be 4th. Those 4 would be top 4 in regular season points, full season points. Here they are now in the chase format. All 4 of them are going to be bound for the championship at Homestead. So the format actually did something right for once. Now the question is, will Kyle Busch come out on top? Because heading into Homestead under a full season format, Kyle Busch should basically have the championship locked up. You can gain 60 points on a race. Kyle Busch has a 55-point lead. So he's pretty much a lock for the championship under that format. Under this format, he has to battle it all out through 267 laps to try and get the championship. But what I'm going to say is that whichever one of those four wins the championship, in my opinion, it will be deserved. Joey Logano has been so consistent this season. He has 1 win to show for it, or 2 wins to show for it now. But he's been so consistent throughout the whole season. Martin Truex Jr., he's kind of been the third wheel of the big three. He has, 4 wins or something, and he's trying to get a championship for Furniture Row before it closes down. Logano trying to get another championship after being in the championship for so many times. Kyle Busch is trying to say, hey, that championship in 2015, well, I got one for myself now. I got one that's actually legit. I raced the full 36 races for it. That's what Kyle Busch is fighting for this championship for. And they have Kevin Harvick, the guy who's having possibly his career year. We don't know how many years he's got left in him, but here he is in a shot, one of the best cars all season. Any one of these four, in my opinion, deserve this championship. And for once, the format actually did something that was right. So now, back to the whole 4 wide and the crash with Hamlin and Kurt Busch deal. A lot of people are being really, really, really hard on Denny Hamlin. And to which I say, I feel really bad for Denny Hamlin and his fans. Because he makes a move on Kurt Busch. So first of all, Jones slides up into Kurt Busch, sends him up to the top. Hamlin makes a move, and then Kyle Busch makes a 4-wide move. Hamlin gets very loose off turn 4, obviously going for the win. Hamlin has not won it all this season. His streak is on the line. He's won a race every season since his rookie year, and that streak is in danger of coming to a close this season. He sees the lead right there in front of him on a 4-wide move. Go for it. Go for it, Denny Hamlin. He did that, ended up wiping some people out. But this is why, in my opinion, the format's bad. Hamlin did that. It wrecked some chase drivers. What's the big deal? They're drivers out there in the racetrack. They're susceptible to anything like us, like anyone else. But since it's a chase driver, and with this format, it is over-glorified that Denny Hamlin ran a chase driver into the wall and then got another chase driver in it. So, in my opinion, Hamlin did nothing wrong. He raced for the win. He got very loose underneath Kurt Busch, slid up, hit him in the wall. They just got connected at that point. Around they went, and then Chase was just an unlucky bystander in all this. Poor Hamlin. He's going to have to face with this, for the rest of the season, for the rest of this week. He did nothing wrong, in my opinion. In my opinion, he went for the win. He has not won this season. That has got to be driving him nuts. Here he is going for the win, and he pushed it a little too hard, but everyone makes mistakes. And I think that's where part of it, ever since Martinsville last season, he has been under a huge microscope, and anything he does has been glorified, and glorified in a wrong way. It's been under a microscope where everyone's looking at oh, Hamlin touched this guy. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I have not liked Denny Hamlin's attitude at some points in his career. Case in point, 2016 and some of these others, where he would be getting raced too hard in his opinion, and at one point I think he called Jimmy Johnson he thinks he's king or something like that because Johnson was holding off Hamlin using the outside of Martinsville. And I've kind of not liked Hamlin due to stuff like that, where he's kind of complained about drivers racing him too hard. Case in point, see how I reacted to Eric Almirola getting mad at Joe Logano last race at Texas, because I wasn't too happy about that either. But in the end, Hamlin didn't really do anything this time. Obviously, the thing at Martinsville is completely different. He drove into the back of Chase Elliott. It's probably a misjudgment. I really don't think he went in there to try and mean to wreck Chase Elliott at Martinsville. But he went in there, he wrecked Chase Elliott. That was a different story, because obviously, it was Chase Elliott, first of all. That's probably the worst driver that could have happened to. If it would have happened to someone like Kurt Busch, I don't know if anyone would bat an eye. Maybe they would have, but it wouldn't have been as big. But Chase got his revenge. They were fine. In fact, I think that has actually helped their relationship, their friendship, Chase's and Denny's, because they're pretty good friends now. We saw them in practice, practicing restarts together. So, it's not like Chase is mad at him anymore. Why should the fans be mad at him anymore? That's kind of my opinion on it. Now, as I said, I'll be the first to say I'm not a Denny Hamlin fan. In fact, he's kind of towards the bottom of the list of the drivers I like. So, he's up ahead of a few drivers like Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch and some of those others, but I mean he's not really that high on the list of drivers that I like. He's not, so I mean it was just a misjudgment. Racing hard for the lead, racing hard for the win. I get it. It's just the wrong thing that this chase format has kind of promoted. We saw it with Larson last year, and it angered me so badly. Because of the format, Larson was scared to go up there and battle to get ahead of Kyle Busch and get ahead of Martin Truex Jr. And that's the sad fact. Kyle Larson, he didn't not win last year at Homestead because he didn't have the best car. If Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. were not 1-2, Kyle Larson would have won that race. Since they're bound for the championship, Larson backed off to make sure they could fight for the championship themselves. And that's the sad fact, that this format is making, non-chase drivers, like, I'm scared to even race near. Because if I make one mistake, if my car gets loose like Hamlin's did, and I get up into a chase driver, that's bad. We even heard Larson say after the race, he said, I could have made some moves on drivers like Truex or Kyle Busch, gone down to the apron, they're 3 wide, but if I just got loose and went up into them, that would have been bad. So the fact that the drivers have to race like that at points, that's kind of sad. Another reason I don't like this format. Put that in the jar of reasons I don't like this format. But another thing I want to point out is that I was doing some little research here. Maybe some few more things I want to point out. But all but one of the playoff races this season have ended with under a 1-second margin of victory. The only one that did not end under a second was Las Vegas. That was like 1.2 seconds. Every race since Vegas has ended under 1 second of a margin of victory. Just shows that this season has turned around in terms of finishes, in terms of the racing. Phoenix, one of the better races of the season. And I did some more research. This race and the Phoenix race from earlier in the season both had 15 lead changes. So that's actually kind of high for Phoenix as well. I kind of looked back through a few years of Phoenix. I saw a lot of 8, 9s, and 10s in terms of that lead change category. I think the most I saw was like the 2012 spring race at Phoenix. I think I had like 22 lead changes or something, which was a ridiculous amount. But yeah, Phoenix is normally one where it's like a low amount of lead changes. This race had a lot of lead changes, and it was a very good race in my opinion. So if on Gluck's poll tomorrow it doesn't get like at least high 70s or the 80s, I have lost faith in the NASCAR community. Yep. So we'll see tomorrow how I feel about the NASCAR community. So thank you guys for watching. Homestead, Miami. It should be a really good race. We have the 4 best drivers all season, all of which are fighting one way or another for something special. It's going to be an intense race, or Kevin Harvick will just dominate it. Well, we'll find out. So thank you guys for watching. Phoenix was a wild race, one of the better races of the season. We'll see how Homestead goes. We have all 3 championships. In the championships, I'll be rooting for Brett Moffitt, Reddick or Hemrick. I don't really care, Reddick or Hemrick. Hemrick, I think, definitely deserves it. He's had such a consistent season. And in Cup, and for fantasy purposes, Kevin Harvick, even though I'm still mad about, but Logano or Truex there. Logano would be cool since I don't know why I'm just rooting for Logano because of the spotter, because of TJ. I really just want TJ to get a championship, not even Logano. And the Truex would be cool just because that team's ending and be back-to-back championships for him. So we'll see how Homestead goes. We'll see if my 3 predictions for the champions will be right. I haven't even made predictions for the champions. Let's do that. I think it's going to be Brett Moffitt, just because I want it, Daniel Hemrick, and Joey Logano. No, Kevin Harvick. I think it's going to be Kevin Harvick. So Brett Moffitt, Daniel Hemrick, Joey Logano. I think it's going to be Toyota, Chevy, Ford for the championship. I think you guys... Did I say Joey Logano? I don't know if I said Joey Logano. I meant Kevin Harvick again. If I said Joey Logano, shoot me in the head. It's Kevin Harvick for the Cup championship. So I thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys after Homestead.